we're going to add thousands more resources to this city. We're going to ignore these stupid white hippies that all need to go home and take a nap because they're all over 90 years old.
Stephen Miller of the Trump White House at Union Station yesterday, where mobs of protesters made a lot of noise and cursed a lot and called everybody Nazis. And then they went and killed a bunch of black babies and harvested their organs. Kind of weird, I think. It's a little odd. Well, a very good Thursday, too, and welcome back once again. Thanks to the Democrat Party, it is a mad world out there. Look under the big W. The Democrats love crime. They're in favor of crime. They want more crime. You know how they do that? More criminals. That's how they do it. First of all, they some of them actually procreate. It's unclear how they accomplish that with the gender dysphoria and all of that. But I watched a little local news last night. I watched on the television. I watched some local news in the 11 p.m. hour. And I want to share some of that with you because if you're a repeat offender, illegal alien, child rapist from Virginia who's let go by a George Soros non-prosecutor, then you become the hero of the story. And not only is the illegal alien, three-time illegal alien child rapist, hey, the charges were dropped. Yeah, by Steve Descani, who's George Soros pro-crime fake prosecutor. We got that. Also, you know, the guy that we got two Michael and I were talking before the big radio program today, and they've got a couple of heroes today. One of them was arrested on the mall yesterday, and the poor man who was, again, three-time illegal alien, arrested and charged with child sexual assault in Virginia, and then let go by a George Soros criminal pretending to be a criminal prosecutor, but he's not. They got that, and the news media, the poor man. He's driving an Uber car, and he got out and assaulted the police and tried to crash through them and run away. It's entirely unclear whether it's actually his car or whether he had just stolen the car, but the news media does not care, I can assure you. So we've got that story that I want to share with you. The Vice President of the United States and the Secretary of Defense and more from the Trump White House at Union Station yesterday, where the Vice President brought, what did he bring? Shake Shack food to National Guardsmen in Washington, D.C., and the Democrats, they're against that. They would put broken glass in the burgers if they could, just like they did to the National Guard when Joe Biden had 25,000 Guard deployed in Washington for a third of a year for 4 months because, Ashley Babbitt had been shot at the Capitol, so they needed to throw down the Soviet-style gauntlet. So we got that, but in addition to this illegal alien child rapist Uber driver who assaulted the police trying to run away quite foolishly, the guy couldn't run 100 yards without falling and having a heart attack, but he's under arrest, and the Democrats and the media, but I repeat myself, very angry about this, left-wing radicals. Watch, in all caps. This is left-wing media. Heartbreaking video of man detained in D.C. while National Guard watches. They should have shot him. You're right. National Guard probably should have shot him with a rifle. And they're angry that the National Guard watched instead of participating when federal law enforcement was arresting the illegal alien child rapist. And the Democrats, they want more illegal alien child rapists and more child rape and more illegal aliens. You know how they are. Stunning video shows man detained, wrestled to ground by federal agents while crying out for his family. How do you know he's crying out for his family? He might have been crying out for somebody else's family. They don't actually know that. But Mediaite, left-wing radical extremist pretending to be journalist at Mediaite, very upset. Man was arrested. Also, the Democrat that hurled the foot-long Subway sandwich at a federal law enforcement officer in Washington, D.C., and was arrested. He tried to run away in his flip-flops and his pink polo shirt, and you can't catch me, you can't catch me. And then they caught him and knocked him to the ground and arrested him. Well, he's a new hero, you see. He's a hero, the sandwich guy. Washingtonian Magazine has an article on him. They got 3 pictures like he's an Andy Warhol hero, as though he's throwing a touchdown pass. but he's got a Subway sandwich. And 3 of these photos apparently on a wall in Washington, D.C., 3-photo-wide mural of a life-size sandwich-throwing guy. And Washingtonian magazine, Sandwich Guy, has become D.C.'s hero. The Democrats really want their second civil war is what they want. That's Washingtonian magazine. And then the Washington Post with the same picture of the same poster of the same guy looking like he's throwing a touchdown pass, which he wasn't. And it says, how a thrown sub made Sandwich Guy a resistance icon in Trump's D.C. I got an idea. Stop shooting people. How about that? You guys stop with violent attacks on civilization, because violent attacks on the police, that's violent attacks on civilization. I'm here to tell you right now. And the left is not liberal. The Democrat Party is not liberal. The Democratic Party isn't democratic at all. It's a leftist party. Now, with that said, because I have so many great things or amazing things, shocking things, well, maybe not shocking, but appalling. I like to say I'm rarely shocked, but often appalled. We've got all kinds of Democrat crazy for you. We sure do. And the mayor of Washington, D.C., not so smart and all that. So the D.C. police will cooperate in federal investigations, according to the mayor, Muriel Bowser, yesterday. But not entirely, because they got to hedge everything like the weasels that they are, the sharp-toothed, furry little weasels. But D.C. police will cooperate with a federal investigation into an allegation, more than one allegation, multiple allegations. NBC4 tweeting here. Officials have been manipulating crime stats, said Mayor Muriel Bowser, who met with officers on Tuesday night and listened to their concerns about policing and crime in the city. I have the head of the D.C. Police Union talking about this because they're lying about the crime stats to make it seem better than it is, because they're the left and they're not liberals. D.C. mayor defends crime stats amid DOJ investigation. Another headline, yeah, 200 murders this year in 68 square miles. Pretty good. Only 44 kids shot and killed so far this year. They're all black, and that's pretty good. She defends the crime stats. Very good. Washington Post today. We asked 604 D.C. residents. They didn't. An outside group pulled it, so they lie in the first word of the headline. We? No, it wasn't we. It wasn't you. We asked 604 D.C. residents about Trump's takeover. Here's what they said, keeping in mind that more than 90% of Washington, D.C. voted for Kamala Harris to be president of the United States. So we got that. And I have the numbers for you. Just amazing. And they're very upset. Stunning video shows man detained, wrestled to ground by federal agents while crying out for his family, somebody's family, maybe not his own. And anti-Semitism lives because the Democrats are goose-stepping and wearing armbands everywhere they go. We got Gavin Newsom, and he's having a fight with the store, Bed Bath & Beyond, because they won't put any stores in California anymore because the commies are there. Now, with that said, Michael, let me jump into, I mentioned, we're at 888-630-9625. I don't know why it's Thursday, but somehow I still feel that Hillary Clinton's waking up face down in a pool of her own dried vomit this morning. Normally a Wednesday thing in her household, but I'm thinking it might be happening again today. All right, let's go to soundbite number 1. That's out of order, isn't it? Very unusual for us. J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth, the Vice President of the United States and Secretary of Defense, were at Union Station yesterday. They were visiting in the big train station in Washington, D.C., a wonderful, beautiful building that the Democrats turn into a filthy third world hellhole whenever you give them control of the building for too long. It's in the shadow of the Capitol. You know, Mr. Smith goes to Washington. He steps outside of Union Station to say, wow, when he sees the Capitol dome. But the Democrats destroy everything they touch. So there are liberals inside of Union Station. J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, they brought great burgers and fries and snacks to the National Guardsmen and went in to meet him and talk to him like normal people. But there were liberals there.
Housing and climate justice.
My city!
Get out of my city. Very severely mentally ill people, that we call them Democrats. A woman, they're all white. They're all at least 30, I'd say, right? And they live in the suburbs, and they're bussed in by George Soros, and they're mentally ill and dangerous. I was watching this yesterday when it was happening, and I was literally concerned that extreme violence was going to break out from the psychopathic Democrats, screaming, effing Nazis, and the vice president is looking over at him, a raised brow and smirking and going, oh, he's well. And Pete Hegseth laughing and shaking his head as the psychotic Democrats were out there being extremely mental. The vice president and the secretary of defense at Union Station and the Democrat mob, and that's them. That's not embellished in any way. That's the Democrat Party today. Very seriously, violently, criminally insane, and mentally ill. Aren't they amazing? Now, what's going on with the crime? Because I just read to you a story that the Democrats, from the mayor Muriel Bowser on down and the DEI police chief, they're cooking the books when it comes to crime numbers. The excellent head of the Washington, D.C. police union is Greg Pemberton, and he was on the television early this morning. I was watching in real time.
There's two things that are going on here. One, back in May, we found out that a police commander of a police district was stripped of his police authority and suspended. The allegation was that he was going into police databases and changing felonies to misdemeanors to keep crime stats trending lower in his district. That investigation hasn't played out, but my suspicion is that he's not the only person that was doing that. My guess is that those are directives from on high, probably directing all other commanders to do that.
So it's not just one allegation, as the fake news media is lying. Greg Pemberton, speaking for the D.C. Police Union.
But what we see on a day-to-day basis, albeit anecdotal, is that our officers go to these scenes of crimes and they go to take a report for a felony offense, and inevitably some lieutenant or some captain will show up on that scene or call the officer and direct them to take a report for a lesser offense.
Yeah, sure, it's a shooting of a little girl, but let's call it an accidental cork gun discharge. Greg Pemberton.
We'll go to a scene where somebody's shot. There's shell casings. They've got bullet holes in them, but maybe they're not cooperative with the police, which is not uncommon in some parts of the city. And the captain will tell them, hey, look, let's just take an injured person to the hospital instead of a shooting report, which that makes it an incident, not a crime. It's not followed up on. It never gets reported to the FBI, and it never goes down as a shooting stat.
Not in the crime stats, because they're liars, they're leftists. They're tampering with the crime stats because they want to make the city look less crime-ridden than the Democrats have made it, from the mayor to the racist, anti-Semitic, dim-witted, corrupt city council, Trayon White on down. Isn't it great? Greg Pemberton, hey, it's a shooting, but let's call it... an accidental something or other. Greg Pemberton.
Sometimes we'll see burglaries where someone breaks into a home to steal property, chalked up as an unlawful entry or a theft, which are misdemeanor cases. In other cases, we'll have robberies where somebody is held up at gunpoint for their phone and their wallet. Those could be chalked up as threats in a theft case. This is happening all over the city, and our members are complaining about it.
Well, I don't know. What should we do about the crime stats in our nation's capital in the United States of America in 2025?
In my opinion, I don't think the crime stats in D.C. are trustworthy.
I don't think the crime stats in D.C. are trustworthy. The head guy of the D.C. Police Union laying it out what's happening. He's out going to all 7 police districts in the city, and he hears the same thing everywhere he goes, that they're being told to downplay the crimes that they encounter because Democrats are corrupt. Because Democrats, it's a tragic reality, but you've got to say it out loud because it's true, and it's been proved again and again. They prove it every day. And the violent, criminally insane people screaming effing Nazi at the vice president and the mental illness that is the Democrat Party. But wait, there's more coming up from the local news about a poor illegal alien arrested on the mall. How dare they arrest this Democrat Party voter? We're at 888-630-9625. Unlike your average multi-million-dollar anchor man or anchor woman or anchor transgender in America, I have still a fairly functional memory. And I recall, and I just looked it up this morning, when Joe Biden became president of the United States in January 2021, over 25,000 National Guard troops from all 50 states, 3 territories, and the District of Columbia were deployed to Washington, D.C. for his inauguration. This was done to reinforce security perimeters, staff checkpoints, and guard key government buildings in the wake of the January 6th Capitol riot, which honestly was nothing compared to the 3-day assault on the White House where 180 police were injured. The president was evacuated along with the first family. Fire was set to the Church of the Presidents, and no National Guard was deployed. President Trump did walk across the street and stand in front of the Church of the Presidents with a Bible in his hand, and the media mocked it and ridiculed it because burning the church and attacking the White House and the evacuation of the president was treated as a joke by CNN and MSDNC and late-night TV and across the board. Under Joe Biden, 25,000 troops from all 50 states, 3 territories, and the District of Columbia, which has the same legal status pretty much of the territories. But never mind that. Just great. And guardsmen by the thousands remained on duty until May of 2021. So that's January, February, March, April, May. That's 4 months where thousands of guardsmen, starting with 25,000 guardsmen from all 50 states, deployed to Washington, D.C. because a racist Capitol cop had shot and killed Ashley Babbitt without warning after she served 12 years honorably in the Air Force, the United States Air Force, not the Ukrainian Air Force or anything like that. Democrats love the Ukrainian military, but not the U.S. military. Also, did you see the polls out of Ukraine? It looks like now Democrats in the United States, in larger numbers and larger percentages, support a continuation of the war in Ukraine than do Ukrainians who would like to see a negotiated peace, the likes of which President Trump is trying to establish. Unbelievable. Your Democrat Party. And I've got a local news story because an illegal alien child rapist criminal was arrested by the police, and the Democrats, and that means the media, are very angry because they're in his corner, on his side, want to saddle up with him. Wait till you hear this stuff, and the mayor of Washington, D.C. as well, as they deflate the crime stats here. I want to start with my mayor of our nation's capital, United States of America, Mayor Muriel Bowser. She's a Democrat. She's a WOC. She says a lot of things that are wrong and a lot of things that are dumb. She was asked yesterday because the news media is very upset about an illegal alien child rapist being arrested by the police. They love illegal alien child rapists. The Democratic Party does, from the highest levels on down. And they want more of them loose on the streets. And when they're caught by the police, the Democrats let them go. And they'll give them a commercial driver's license. We got a bid for you on that today, too. But I was watching this, and amazing stuff. From the vice president, J.D. Vance, at Union Station, with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and the violent, crazy mob screaming and cursing, and everybody's an effing Nazi, and, all this. Well, J.D. Vance and Hegseth pointed at them and laughed at them. It was interesting but dangerous because the left is here. Now, let's go to the mayor of Washington, D.C., because she was asked about the National Guard being on the street. And again, I just looked it up again today. Joe Biden called up 25,000 National Guard. That's an Army division. That's division strength U.S. Army military guard. And all 50 states, plus 3 territories and the District of Columbia, 25,000 troops. Thousands remained on the streets of Washington, Humvees and armored vehicles and with their machine guns, where they all had their rifles. Not the case now, I think, with the guard in Washington that I've seen anyway. And the Democrats, they're militaristic, they're very Soviet, and they're not on our side. But the mayor was asked about the guard yesterday by a cupcake.
Do you think placing the troops at major transit hubs or monuments is the most strategic deployment instead of, say, high crime areas?
I don't think the National Guard should be used for law enforcement. And I think calling men and women from their homes and their jobs and their families, they have to be used on their, on mission-specific items that benefit the nation. I don't think you have an armed militia in the nation's capital.
Except the 25,000 guardsmen that the Democrats called in because one of their cops had shot and killed Ashley Babbitt, who was, I think, laughing when she was shot by the police. But that's okay. You want them in high crime areas rather than on the mall by the monuments, where the Democrats vandalize and spray paint and throw fake blood, and they love to destroy everything, particularly if it represents the United States of America. Now, keeping in mind that in Seattle, Washington, there is a 12-foot high bronze monument to Lenin, the Soviet Bolshevik revolutionary. Never been vandalized, never had red paint thrown on it, never been beat up by the Democrats, walk by and they worship Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, a.k.a. Lenin of the Bolshevik Revolution. But pay no attention to that. So they free up park police from the monuments, where you might find the park police on a regular basis. On the mall in Washington, D.C., park police, very serious federal law enforcement agency, and they have been involved in arrests, and there have been a lot of arrests since we started arresting criminals. Democrats want them all to go free so they can continue to commit crimes, because that's what the Democrats do. Now, Attorney General Pam Bondi tweeted out, she has a Twitter account, it's on X now, though, today, make D.C. safe again. And the headline is, we've now made a total of 630 arrests, like WMAL 6:30 a.m. 630 arrests and seized 86 illegal guns in D.C. And the Democrats are like, give them back, and let the 630 go. 630 arrests, seized 86 illegal guns. 53 arrests were made yesterday, plus 24 ICE arrests and 10 guns taken off the street. That's yesterday now. Our incredible U.S. Marshals headquarters even helped to recover a missing child. I think a Democrat was responsible for the child missing. Our mission is to make D.C. safe again, and isn't slowing down. They're continuing to arrest, and the Democrats, they're not on the side of civilization. They're not on the side of law and order. They're on the side of anarchy and crime and criminals and illegal aliens and gangs from whatever country you may come from. Now let's go, because to soundbite number 8. Last night I was watching the local news for you. I was watching local Channel 4. That's the NBC station in Washington, D.C. And they have an anchor woman when the show opened right at 11 o'clock, at the top of the 11 o'clock. Yun Yang was the anchor woman, and it's very scary being in Washington, because now some laws are being enforced.
We begin at 11 with the new reality for so many of our neighbors walking in fear on D.C. streets. As this D.C. police takeover stretches on, our crews continue to capture video of ICE agents and police detaining people walking and driving in the streets.
Walking in fear. People are living in fear in Washington, D.C. People are walking in fear on the streets. And the police are arresting people on the streets and the sidewalks. Where else that's where the people are. It's like most shark bites take place in 3 feet of water or less. That's because, you know why that is? That's where the people are. It's not necessarily where the sharks are. That's where the people are. That's why. And when arrests take place in cars, and people walking, that's because, like the shark things, that's where the people are, stupid. Come on. Don't be ridiculous. And then let's go back to Yang, because Yang, the anchor woman on the local NBC station in our nation's capital, those terrible, terrible police, there's a video that was made of a man being arrested. Now, he's pulled over, and there are a bunch of law enforcement people in tactical gear and so on. And they go up to the guy in the car and roll down the window, and they're talking to him. And then he shoves the door open, crashes the door into one of the federal law enforcement officers, leaps out, kind of a chubby little guy who's not going to run very far, very fast. But he crashes in headlong into these police officers and tries to shove his way. He's assaulting them now, felony assault on federal law enforcement and multiple officers. And he assaults them, and he's trying to break away, and it doesn't work. And they wrestle him to the ground, and he's still fighting them, and he's screaming, and he's fighting, and he's assaulting them, and he's trying to get away. And he wants to be George Floyd, and because, you know, all the Democrats want to be George Floyd. That way they'll be famous in their own circles. And the anchor woman, Yang.
The most recent incident shows local and federal officers taking a man into custody on the National Mall. We should warn some viewers may find the moment it happened upsetting.
Warning.
Our News 4 cameras are rolling today as the man pleaded for help. We now know his name is David Perez Teofani. ICE says he allegedly entered the U.S. illegally 3 times, had a final order of removal, and had also been arrested on criminal charges before. News 4 has learned those charges were later dismissed. His family did confirm he entered the U.S. illegally.
Notice they didn't say, did his family confirm he entered the country illegally 3 times, and that there's a final order out for him, and that he was charged with crimes, which they say, oh, forget about those. They were dropped. But they were dropped by a George Soros communist protester who wants more crime and more murder. And he's still in there in Virginia. Isn't that amazing? But they left out some details there. They then did go to another reporter, and I think, was she with Telemundo or something? Amy Cho. Oh, no, that was the other lady with Telemundo. Then they went to their own reporter, Amy Cho, I apologize, who honestly was doing, I thought, a pretty good job. Amy Cho was on camera. And she's actually making phone calls and talking to ICE and all this good stuff. And David Perez Teofani, the illegal alien that was arrested after assaulting the police and trying to escape. And the news media is like, oh, this may be upsetting to you. This may be very upsetting. You may find it upsetting. And the final order, the crimes, but the charges were dropped. Amy Cho put a little more meat on the bone, as it were.
An ICE spokesperson confirms to NBC News the name of the man who was detained on the National Mall is David Perez Teofani. According to ICE, Perez Teofani had allegedly illegally entered the U.S. 3 times and had a final order of removal against him. And he had also been arrested before on criminal charges. News 4 happened to be there this afternoon as federal agents detained Perez Teofani.
They just happen to, and that's great, and they're doing what they should be doing to some point as a news outfit. And there's more. And Amy Cho reporting the news, I've got to say, last night on the 11 p.m. hour.
A D.C. police officer and a Park police officer have been questioning Perez Teofani on the National Mall for several minutes. He was in a vehicle with an Uber decal. The D.C. police officer had opened the door. Then Perez Teofani got out and appeared to try to escape. That is when several masked agents tackled him to the ground.
They're masked. They're obsessed with this masked thing. And that's because they don't want their families to be terrorized by the left or the cartels that the Democrats invited into the country. It's part of the third worlding of America. We used to see things like this in third world countries. Now we see things like this here entirely because of the Democrat Party. A D.C. police officer and a Park police, federal police officer, he appeared to try to escape. Yeah, what was your first clue? Here's the video of him violently assaulting and trying to fight through and get by the police officers that are taking him into custody. They talk to him. They may have even gotten his name. And then they say, oh, they got, warrants out for him, a final order to have him removed. And he's not apparently assaulting and trying to escape. He's very clearly and obviously assaulting federal and D.C. police officers and trying to escape. And then they said, well, they got video of him when the police grabbed him, and he's fighting them and punching them and trying to get through them and trying to escape. The police have him on the ground, and NBC sounded like this.
The man yelling repeatedly he hadn't done anything and saying he works and wants to be here with his family.
Yes, he wants to be here with his family because, that's why he came in illegally 3 times and all that good stuff. But wait, the anchor lady earlier mentioned that he had been arrested on crimes before that. And then the reporter lady, Amy Cho.
According to ICE, Perez Teofani was from Mexico and had a final order of removal against him after allegedly entering the U.S. illegally 3 times. ICE also says he was charged in Fairfax County in 2024 with aggravated sexual battery against a minor under 13 and felony indecent liberties.
Aggravated sexual battery against a minor under the age of 13. And he's screaming he wants to stay. Now, why would he want to stay? Honestly, it did remind us of this just keeps happening. I gave you a list yesterday of the child sex assault illegal aliens that have been rounded up in the Boston area, and it's an endless list. I don't know what it is. Like everybody in Latin America and sexually assault children. What's going on with that?
Qualifications.
Rape, murder, arson, and rape.
You said rape twice.
I like rape.
Charming.
See, that's where the Democrat Party is today. They've taken things that used to be satire and they've made them real. Now, the problem that we have here is that this guy was arrested for the sexual assault in Virginia. Amy Cho told us about it.
However, Virginia court records show those charges were later dismissed.
Those charges of the aggravated child sexual assault, they were later dismissed. But I said, well, wait a minute, because they said he had been arrested in Fairfax, right? And so I went and did a little research because I'm a better newsman than 99.88% of newsmen out there. Soros prosecutors sprung career criminal from jail just days before alleged attempted child snatching. This is the Daily Caller and the Daily Caller News Foundation. And they had this story August 1st of 2025. Career criminal who allegedly attempted to abduct a 3-year-old from a Virginia mall. You might have seen the video. It made the rounds a little bit. Last month was released from jail days before the incident. Andres Caceres Jaldin was released from jail in Fairfax County, Virginia, on his own recognizance following a July 2nd incident. Sure, no problem. Where he allegedly failed to stop at the scene of an accident resulting in a felony injury. Court records show this guy, Caceres Jaldin, did not have to pay bond because he was released by the George Soros prosecutor there, Steve Descano, who loves to release criminals. And this illegal alien, child rapist, was also released. The charges were dropped by the same guy, Steve Descano, who's the George Soros prosecutor. The Heritage Foundation did an entire piece on Steve Descano in 2020. Meet Steve Descano, the rogue prosecutor whose policies are wreaking havoc in Fairfax County, Virginia. The Heritage Foundation in 2020 on this Soros guy, the billionaire corruptnik who is here to destroy the world, and that's why the Democrats are sleeping with him. Amazing stuff. So Steve Descano, Fairfax County, illegal alien arrested yesterday. News media, he was arrested for something. We don't know what. The charges were dropped. Yeah, by Steve Descano, who let the creepy illegal aliens go so he could go kidnap a child in a shopping mall. The Heritage Foundation onto this Steve Descano guy from years ago, the George Soros-backed rogue prosecutor. Unbelievable stuff. This is your Democrat Party. More Democrats, more crime. More Democrats, more murder. They're anti-police, but at least they're pro-criminal.
Walking in fear on D.C. streets.
The Democrats are very proud. They claim, perhaps falsely, because we know they're tampering with the crime numbers in Washington, that in 2024, the homicide rate was around 25 per 100,000. In London, it's 1.1 per 100,000. Washington, D.C., it's 25. Over a 5-year period, what was that, 2019 to 2024, I believe, homicide rate was more than 40 per 100,000, more than any other world capital that they looked at then. The United Nations, thank you very much. And the Democrats want to preserve that. They say, hey, 25 per 100,000, that's pretty good. In a city of 700,000 people, so that's, 25 times 175 people murdered in 1 year. And the Democrats say, that's pretty good, huh? Isn't that great? Just wonderful. And if you want to fight crime, then they want to fight you because they're not on your side. The NBC4 last night also had a thing on back to school. They got a back to school thing coming in Anacostia, southeast Washington, D.C. Say a largely black and Latino part of the city. NBC4 Jackie Benson doing the story.
People are not registering in the numbers of past years. Organizers asked around, trying to figure out why, and learned the likely answer is fear. Many who attend are Latino families, he says.
We're hearing that people are afraid, parents are afraid to come out. Our Latino communities are especially afraid of coming out with the potential of being stopped and harassed by police.
Because that's what's happening. I got to tell you, that was a left-wing pastor here in the city of Washington, O. Germain Bago, and seems like a perfectly nice man. Trying to do that, they say, oh, yeah, we're giving away laptops to the illegal alien kids. Now, here's the thing. If you're an illegal alien and you're sending your kids to the school opening thing to get your free laptops that I'm paying for, I'm not going to feel a great deal of sympathy for you. If you're afraid to come out because you're illegal, too bad.